Jimmy answered Taye's question, saying that he was only helping his brother fix the stuck faucet. And everything was already finished. Seeing Jimmy completely soaked, Taye asked what was wrong with the faucet. Jimmy explained the reason why it was stuck. Taye thanked Jimmy for his help. Besides that, Taye suggested that Jimmy change his clothes. Jimmy said it wasn't necessary, because his clothes would dry soon. Taye was captivated by Jimmy's charm, and insisted that Jimmy change his clothes. Taye, of course, didn't want to lend his clothes. Jimmy also said that he didn't want to wear Taye's clothes. Just thinking about it already scared him. Taye smiled at their conversation and hurried to his room to find clothes for Jimmy. Taye came back carrying his own clothes. Without blinking, Taye looked at Jimmy unbuttoning his shirt. Taye, realizing his brother's gaze, immediately turned toward Jimmy, covered Jimmy's body, and told him to change in the bathroom. Taye himself pushed Jimmy to go quickly. Firmly, Taye warned his brother not to fall in love with Jimmy. Taye replied that he wasn't thinking about that. After all, Jimmy was Taye's friend. Taye firmly reminded him again that Jimmy was a player. Taye knew exactly what Jimmy was like, so Taye should never cross that line. He told his brother this for his own good. Besides, Taye didn't want to see Taye get hurt. It would be better for Taye to stay away from Jimmy. Taye reassured his brother that nothing would happen. Taye was overthinking. After Jimmy changed his clothes, he was invited to have lunch together. Enjoying the food made by Taye, Jimmy began to praise it, and intended to come back again. Taye immediately interrupted Jimmy, saying that his house was not a restaurant. Jimmy should find food somewhere else. Taye reminded Taye that Jimmy was his friend. Jimmy complained that Taye was always strict with him, knowing that Taye would open a cafe, because the food he made was delicious. Jimmy also reminded Taye that he had to make good desserts too. If Jimmy came back again, what should he bring? Taye said Jimmy didn't need to bring anything. If he wanted to come, he could just come. Jimmy said he couldn't keep eating for free. At least he had to give something to Taye. Taye then said that there were some desserts he couldn't make. The shop was near the campus. If possible, Jimmy could bring those desserts, but not too many, because Taye didn't want to gain weight. Jimmy agreed. Seeing Jimmy chatting with his brother, Taye told Jimmy to stop flirting with him. He also forbade Jimmy from coming to his house again. Firmly, Jimmy was told to finish eating and go home. Jimmy complained again to Taye, because Taye was indeed kind. Instead, Taye was the one who got reminded not to act that way. Being ignored, Taye could only hold back his annoyance. After they were done, Taye pulled Jimmy outside, and again warned Jimmy not to come to his house anymore. Jimmy asked the reason why. Taye answered that he didn't want his brother to fall in love with Jimmy, and he was sure that Jimmy would only hurt Taye. Taye was an easy target, and Taye knew exactly what Jimmy was like. Jimmy said that he never thought about it that way. Taye was exaggerating. Taye firmly warned his friend again that if Jimmy crossed the line, he would be finished. Jimmy agreed, and promised that he would not touch Taye. Taye told him to remember that promise. Then Taye said goodbye and left. That night, Taye lay down, remembering what had happened earlier. The more he thought about it, the more he remembered his brother's words. Taye wondered who would even fall in love. But when he tried to sleep, he could only smile. Meanwhile, at Jimmy's house, Jimmy was enjoying his night by the pool. He also smiled when he remembered his first meeting with Taye. Jimmy also remembered that Taye had lent him his clothes. Jimmy murmured that Taye's brother was truly tempting. The next day, Taye took Taye to campus. He asked again whether Taye had brought all the important things. Taye casually said that if he forgot something, he would call his brother. Before leaving, Taye asked what Taye wanted for dinner later. Taye said he would think about it first, and then tell Taye. Taye didn't forget to hug his brother. After Taye left, Jimmy came with a wide smile. He immediately greeted Taye. Taye thought that Jimmy came to see his brother, but it turned out that Jimmy came to meet Taye. Jimmy brought desserts from Taye's favorite shop. Consider it a thank you for yesterday. Besides that, could Jimmy have a free cup of coffee? Taye, of course, agreed, and invited Jimmy into the house. After Taye prepared the coffee, the two of them drank together. Jimmy praised the coffee again, saying it suited his taste. Jimmy wanted Taye to tell him when the cafe would open, because he would be Taye's first customer. Taye said that he would call Jimmy, and would even scold him if he didn't come. Taye told Jimmy that his favorite dessert shop was always crowded, and sold out very quickly. What time did Jimmy go there? Jimmy answered that he went very early. He wasn't someone who liked waking up early, but for Taye, he would make the effort. Taye felt shy hearing that. While Taye was enjoying the dessert, Jimmy wiped the crumbs from Taye's lips. Taye froze for a moment, then realized it and said that Jimmy treated him like a child. To Jimmy, Taye was indeed like that. As adorable as a child. Taye became even more shy. Jimmy then talked about the clothes he borrowed yesterday. He would wash them first and bring them back. Taye said it was fine. Jimmy could bring them back another time. Jimmy asked if he could keep them for now. The scent of the clothes was the same as Taye's. Jimmy began to stroke Taye's thigh, and asked what if he kept Taye's clothes forever. Taye only smiled softly and nodded in agreement. Jimmy then held Taye's hand. After everything was done, Taye thanked Jimmy for the dessert. He was quite happy about it. Suddenly, Jimmy said that Taye shouldn't say yet that he was happy or satisfied, because then Jimmy would have no reason to meet him again. At least Taye should know that he was very cute when he blushed. Taye's phone rang. It was a call from his brother. When Taye was about to answer it, Jimmy stopped him, telling him not to answer now, and not to say that Jimmy was there. Jimmy reasoned that he had to work on a presentation with Taye, but he came to see Taye first. Taye, who was innocent, understood. He wouldn't tell Taye, and Jimmy could leave first. Jimmy smiled and waved before leaving. Taye then answered Taye's call. Taye asked why Taye had just answered. Taye made an excuse that a courier had delivered something, so he went outside to receive the package. Taye reminded Taye again what food he wanted for dinner later. At campus, Fa was sitting alone when Jimmy approached him. Nervously, Jimmy said that he bought desserts for Fa. Fa thanked him for that. Since Fa remained silent and busy with his phone, Jimmy excused himself and left. After Jimmy left, Fa gave the dessert to another student sitting there. Meanwhile, Taye angrily approached Jimmy, who was chatting happily with his friends. Taye pulled Jimmy aside. Jimmy asked what was wrong with him. Taye then showed the CCTV recording from his house. Taye knew very well what Jimmy was like. Jimmy said that he only bought desserts for Taye as a thank you. However, Taye angrily said that he had already told Jimmy to stay away from his brother. Taye pulled Jimmy again. They almost got into a fight. And their friends were seen holding them back to stop the two of them from fighting. That's all for this part. See you in the next episode too. Thank you for watching and then have a nice day.